Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. My name is Chad Hilligus, and I'm the CEO at the Gallo Center for the Arts. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're going to jump right into our special guest this afternoon. Joining us all the way from Chicago, where he's currently starring in the national tour of Sound of Music, please join me in welcoming Nicholas Rodriguez.
Hey, Chad.
There he is. There
Ah.
he is. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Greetings from the Windy City.
How's the tour going?
I am having a blast. I absolutely love it. This is, I think, our fourth stop so far. So we're in our groove. It's a beautiful production. It's a great company, and I love telling the story.
And this is not your first go around with Sound of Music, is it?
No, no, I did The Sound of Music, this directed by Jack O'Brien, the same production 10 years ago. We were out across the country and they're bringing it back. This is the 60th anniversary of the film. Similar, we're calling it a revised version of the tour. So, same director, same designers, but some boosted up production values.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. Nicholas, you are obviously no stranger to the Gallo Center, specifically with all of your incredible work over the years with our arts education programs. And so I thought maybe we would start today by just having you share a bit about your history with Broadway Dreams and specifically with our Yes Company students.
Sure, sure. So, I first of all, I love coming to Modesto. It's one of the highlights of my year. I've been fortunate to, I think I've been there maybe four times. This coming up will be my fifth time. And mostly because of the people in the team, honestly. Courtney and Maggie, who work over at the Education Center, they feel like real partners. They're amazing educators, they're amazing teachers. And I got introduced through to them through an organization I work with called the Broadway Dreams Foundation, which I've worked for 16 years, I believe, as a faculty member, and I was artistic director for quite some time. And we have an amazing board member who has deep ties to the Modesto area, Chris Roberts, who introduced us to Gallo Art Center and started bringing us in, I think about 5 or 6 years ago. I could be wrong on that. But basically, the Broadway Dreams Foundation, we bring in directors, choreographers, actors, vocal teachers, casting directors, you name it, from the Broadway community to areas around the country and now around the world to provide arts education for students, regardless of their ability to pay. And through that, so we've been able to serve so many communities, not only the Yes Company at the Gallo Arts Center, but through the Yes Company, they've set us up with many high schools in the area that I've had the privilege to go around and do master classes at. And it's just been awesome, awesome to work with so many people in the community that have this passion for musical theater. And particularly in the Modesto area, you know, a lot of people that look like me and come from similar backgrounds to me. I know it's a passion of mine because, you know, I think representation matters and being able to see people that look like you up on stage is a huge thing. And I think what the Yes Company and Maggie specifically, Maggie Stiffin, does is awesome. This year I got to work with their production of Mamma Mia. That was a huge hit. Last year I got to work with their company on Oklahoma and just several master classes throughout the year. And I, as you can tell by me going on and on, I just love it.
That's great. Well, we
Yeah.
love having you here. And is it true, correct me if I'm wrong, but we might be seeing some familiar Yes Company faces during your show?
I hope so. Well, you'll definitely see some Yes Company members. I think there's about 20 that are going to do a surprise pop up with me. Surprise is spoiled because we just told everybody. But but hopefully they'll be familiar faces. Some will be new to me, some will be familiar to me, but hopefully they'll be familiar to audiences. They're going to be joining me for a number on stage for the concert, and I'm thrilled that in the days leading up to the concert, I'm able to come in a few days early and do some master classes with a couple of groups while I'm in town. So it combines both my passions, teaching and performing. So it's going to be a good time.
That'll be a lot of fun. And I know you're also doing a really special workshop with our repertory theater company cast of Into the Woods, which is coming up in December. So I think that's part of your residency here with us as well that weekend.
Yeah, I'm stoked. You know, I was actually, interestingly enough, I was just working with a friend today. who happens to be she's currently in Cursed Child on Broadway, the Harry Potter, but she played the baker's wife in the last tour of Into the Woods just went out. So I was picking her brain for some stuff. Like I said, I'm going to be coaching the woman that plays the baker's wife in Modesto. Do you have any tips that I can pass along? And so it was really fun to prep for that as well. And I think I'm working with several members of that company, and I'm excited.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well. So Nicholas, I first saw this new show of yours, Sincerely Sondheim, last January in New York
Yeah.
at this really great new cabaret club. And I have to tell you, I was completely blown away. It's such a fabulous show, brilliant, brilliant concept, and you do such a really great job with it. So I'm curious, as we dive into the show, what first drew you to Stephen Sondheim's work? And I guess how has that relationship evolved over the years? And was there a particular Sondheim song or a show that just hooked you to this concept?
Yeah, well, this is going to be like an insider sneak peek, and I talk about it in the show. So be surprised if you come when you come on November 2nd. But I was actually first introduced to Steve's music as a teenager. I think I was 13, from a film. He did the music to the film Dick Tracy. So before I even knew about him as a musical theater composer, I heard the songs in that movie, and I immediately went out and bought the soundtrack at Sam Goody in the mall. But I think I played that CD on repeat, nonstop, and drove my parents crazy. And that kind of led me into exploring other of Steve's work. And actually, Into the Woods was the first show I ever saw on stage. The local university in my hometown was doing it, and I went to see that. And I just loved the writing. I loved his ability to tell storytelling through song. And so my relationship just kind of grew from there. I had the privilege of doing a Sondheim show when I was in undergrad, and then a couple professionally before I moved to New York. And that was always one of my dreams, is to be able to do a Stephen Sondheim show on Broadway. And I was just like, please, 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 someday let me do a Steve show on Broadway.
And
And I got to. I teed you up for that one, Chad. Yeah, I was in the 2021 revival of Company with Patty LaPone, who you guys just had there last
did.
season, I think, right? Uh,
Yes.
so I got to work with Patty and Katrina Link and so many awesome people on this revival of Company, which in fact, is my favorite musical of all time by my favorite composer. So it's like, talk about having your dream come true, is getting to do a Steve show. But my favorite Steve show on Broadway with Patty, it was pretty awesome.
Pretty special.
Yeah.
This new show, Sincerely Sondheim, is not just a concert. It's really built around Sondheim's own handwritten letters.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious, for those watching and might be curious about what they're going to see when they come see you. What do those letters reveal about Stephen, that audiences may not have guessed or may not have realized?
Well, yeah, I really am thrilled about the concept. And it kind of came about after Steve passed away in 2021. A lot of people, he was a huge letter writer and a big correspondent, and he wrote a lot of letters, but he also responded to almost everybody that wrote to him. And as you can imagine, that's a lot of fan mail, and sometimes it would be a one sentence type thing, sometimes it would be rather lengthy. But after Steve passed, a lot of people started posting their letters that they had received online as tribute, whether it was, a huge celebrity like Lin-Manuel, or just, a fan down the street. We're posting all of this correspondence. And it really revealed this personal side to him that not a lot of people got to see. People knew the wit and the genius through his writing, his songwriting, but not necessarily through these personal letters. And it's amazing. We know through his songwriting that he was very meticulous with his words and packed a lot of punch to get just the right thing for the song. But he also did it through his letters. He just kind of cuts to the chase and says what needs to be said. So that kind of sparked my interest in kind of digging in and writing to the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian, and being granted permission to see a lot of these letters that weren't in the public purview. And that's kind of what we use to tell the story to get us between the songs. Um, and it also opened the door to allow us to use a few songs from other composers like Lin-Manuel Miranda and Jonathan Larson and Jerry Herman and Oscar Hammerstein that Steve had this personal connection to show how they influenced his writing, not only as a composer and lyricist, but also how he influenced theirs.
That's amazing. And so these letters are then interwoven, as you mentioned, with obviously some of his absolute masterpieces from shows like Company and Sunday in the Park with George and Into the Woods, and the list goes on and on. So how did you go about choosing the songs that you were going to connect to some of these letters? Was that a natural process as you chose the letters, and maybe talk about which came first, the letter or the song, and how did you make that connection?
So kind of both, at the same time. So I kind of start whenever I create a solo piece like this, um, by creating a list because regardless in cabaret style or in concert, it has to resonate with me personally. So I have to be able to connect in order to tell the song, to tell the story. I have to be able to connect with it on some level. So and which is easy to do with Steve's work because there's just so many amazing songs. So I just started making a list of everything that resonates with me, every one of Steve's songs that I've sung or wanted to sing, something I wanted to dive into. And then similarly with the letters, I started compiling, if I would read one and it spoke to me or it made me laugh, or, I would kind of create that list. And I worked with my director, who happens to be one of my best friends, Greg Camp. It was our first time collaborating on a show like this. And, we had the idea together we would send things back and forth. He said, "Did you see this letter?" And we would add it to a file and then kind of mixing and matching and see what went where. And as you can imagine, there was, if we included everything we wanted to do, it would be like a 4 hour extravaganza. But, starting to whittle it down and then make an arc and a story of itself, so that we could take the audience on a bit of a journey, that wasn't just kind of a list of songs, of favorites. We really wanted to have an arc, and hopefully we do that and take people on a bit of a journey within it.
That's awesome. So, you've talked a little bit about some of the relationships that Sondheim had with some pretty other pretty big names in the industry, Oscar Hammerstein and Lin-Manuel Miranda and so many others. It's a really fascinating through line and story that you've woven together for this show. But I'm curious for our viewers today who don't have their ticket yet. What's one of the stories that we might hear from the show that has really resonated with you as you were creating it?
Oh yeah. So, I just in talking to you, I'm realizing in this moment, I'm realizing that a big chunk of the show has to do with mentorship or
Hmm.
teaching and I think on some level we can all relate to that, right? We've either had that person in our life that we've looked up to, or that person that picked us up, or perhaps that person that we lifted up. So, whether that's through personal relationships or familial relationships or a teacher at school, I find for me that's when I get to that section of the evening, it's the one that hits me in the gut the most because I had teachers in my family. My father was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher. I had amazing teachers and role models in high school and college. And I think now, I mean, I get emotional talking about it, just working with the students and having them on stage with me. I don't think I'm ready for what that impact is going to be. But I think, whether you knew Steve's music before or whether you're coming at it for the first time, we can all relate to that. We all had somebody in our life that did that for us. And I think my job is to tell that story to somebody, whether they know Steve's music or not, and give it to it in a relatable way. And it's something that I take huge pride in.
That's great. That's great. And that really does come through in the show. So that's a perfect answer,
Oh, thanks.
having seen it myself. So, um, Speaking of, I don't know if you know this, but my experience seeing your show in New York is actually what inspired us here to create this brand new cabaret series at the Gallo Center this season, right down to the touch lamps on the table for service. So audiences with this new series, and you are the first in this new series this year. But audiences now have this added option to purchase VIP tables in both the orchestra pit and then also right on stage with you. And as part of that VIP experience, they get to enjoy a complimentary cocktail during the show and just have a truly New York style cabaret club experience. So thank you for the inspiration, first of all. But I know you've starred in some pretty major productions, including the one you're in now, and also the one we talked about earlier, the Tony Award-winning revival of Company. So I'm curious, how does performing in a personal, intimate concert like this one differ either emotionally or creatively from being part of a larger ensemble, a big theatrical production?
Well, first of all, I'm so thrilled to be your guinea pig. And I had no idea that the inspiration for I knew I was the first, but I didn't know that it was inspired by the show you saw in New York. So I'm really honored. And I think it's going to be fun. Did I lose you? Are you still there?
No, no, you're
Oh,
here. Yeah.
okay. I lost something on my screen, but I'm just going to keep talking. And somehow I lost you on my screen, but I'm just going to keep talking. Uh, Sorry, I lost my train of thought. About cabaret in general, I think if people have never been to one, it's one of my favorite art forms because it is inspired so much by the audience. I mean, they're an active participant in the process. And I don't say that to scare anybody because I'm not a big audience participation person. You don't have to be afraid that I'm going to pick on you. But what's so different about doing that versus, The Sound of Music or Company is that it is a conversation with the audience, and I ride on the energy that comes into the space, and yes, there is a show and there is a structure, and I know where I'm going with the stories, but I have to feed off of what's in the room or what's going on in the world in that moment. So, a song in June in Boston can be very different than a song in November in Modesto, depending on what's going on in the world or what we're feeling or what happened that day, and it allows us the ability to ride on that energy, and it's a very intimate and personal thing because I can see all of the audience. So if somebody is viscerally reacting to something or feeling it, it's going to influence the way that I'm feeling it or giving it, and vice versa, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense, and I can't wait. And I know the people watching this are going to be very excited to be a part of that energy as well. So, Nicholas, I cannot thank you enough for doing this and stopping by and taking time out of your busy touring schedule to talk about this show. Again, for those of you who are watching, we look forward to seeing you Sunday, November 2nd at 5 p.m. at the Gallo Center for the Arts, and tickets are available still online at www.galloarts.org, or you can call our ticket office at 209-338-2100. So, Nicholas, thanks again, and good luck with the rest of the tour, and we will see you very, very soon.
Yes, my friend, I can't wait.
All right, take care of yourself.